Okay, so we'll talk about mobile. Most of the previous stuff was about a base station. So if you're putting a radio in the car, the main consideration is how you power it up, and you should connect it directly to the positive and negative terminals on your battery with a fairly heavy gauge wire. You want it to be as short as possible. I would not recommend connecting it to your accessory, or what they used to call cigarette lighter jack. They wouldn't handle the current for a 50-watt radio. If you were operating QRP or something at 5 watts, you might get by with it. But you probably still have
I wouldn't install a radio in the car, let alone,
Why?
one of these. This is a bunch of wires in there. I'm gonna mess something up. I take it to a professional.
Oh, you wouldn't
You
put it in.
guys-
Okay.
Install this? Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
And you also want to make sure that you fuse both of the leads. Okay, close to the battery. And the negative one should be on a good ground, either right at the battery or in the chassis.
Now you're making me rethink who I give my car to.
So where should the negative power return of a mobile transceiver be connected in a vehicle?
A 12-volt battery chassis grant.
Okay. You can operate off of batteries. If you're going portable, like you go out to a park or something, or a lot of people will have batteries in their base station at their house in case there's a power outage, you can operate. And of course, when you do that, then you need to have a charger. So you wind up buying solar cells and a solar charger to charge your battery so you can operate when you lose power. This is kind of like the power supply thing on how long you can operate. Depends on the amp hour rating of the battery and how much current you're actually drawing. So if you had a little QRP radio that's drawing 1 amp, you got a 10 amp hour battery, which is typical of a small like gel cell. You could operate for 10 hours, probably longer, because you're only drawing that 1 amp when you're transmitting, and you're not transmitting all the time. It's another duty cycle thing, which that question came up last week. I'm not sure I answered it good about duty cycle, and I don't remember who asked it. Think of your microwave oven. Everybody's got one, right? They're essentially all built around using a Klystron transmitting tube that are rated around 1,000 watts. I mean, yours might say it's 800 watts or 1,000 or 1,200. It's kind of marketing stuff. It's actually input power, but it puts out a constant amount of power. You'll probably have a knob, buttons, or something where you can select the power range. All you're doing is changing the duty cycle. So it's going to put out 1,000 watts for half the time, and you got 50% power. A quarter of the time, and you got 25% power. So that's how the duty cycle affects. And the same thing when you're transmitting, you're putting out 100 watts in this radiation envelope. Okay. So the average exposure is dependent on the duty cycle, how often you transmit that 100 watts. Did that explain it better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, this is Paul. That was my question. So thank you for going back to that.
Okay.
But that's a good example.
So how can you determine the length of time that equipment can be powered from a battery? Just
B, divide the amp hour by the draw.
Probably.
Sounds good. Let's see. How about that?
Math without numbers. My favorite kind.
Okay, one of the adjustments. And actually even some handy talkies, you can adjust the microphone gain, which affects the amount of modulation. If the gain is too high, you can be over modulating and you'll get distorted audio. If it's too low, you're going to be under modulating. In other words, you're not varying the amplitude or the frequency of your carrier signal enough that it's a very weak signal. So it can be difficult to copy. They use the copy term from the old CW days because you had to write down stuff and copy it. Except for the people that can do it in their head, which are amazing. Another thing is how you tune your radio, whether it's a handy talkie or a base station. In the case of an FM transceiver like the handy talkies, if you are using it in VFO mode where you can actually vary the frequency, tuning it slightly above or below will give you distorted audio because you're not really on the right frequency. That's also true for AM, like single sideband, because there is no carrier. So you've got to get tuned in to where the carrier is supposed to be. Otherwise, your audio is shifted in frequency and you start to get a Donald Duck or somebody in a barrel. It's hard to tune in a single sideband signal because there's no reference carrier. So in the case of like a handy talkie, some of the base stations, you might have a keypad, either actual buttons or on a touch screen where you can select the actual frequency or a memory channel. It might have a knob that you actually rotate. Most of them will at least have a knob, except handy talkies. They're usually channelized. Or you can store those frequencies in memory channels. And even the cheapest radios will have a number of memory channels that you can store frequencies in. And then to recall it, you just go to memory channel 1 or 3 or whatever. Most cases, there will be a scanning function where you can scan over a range of frequencies to see if there's any signals there. If you're just listening to one and there's nobody there, I mean, there's going to be a lot of nothing. That's one of the things where the waterfall's nice and you can actually see where
That's why I
signals
like
are.
that radio right there. That waterfall tells you exactly where to go. You don't have to waste time.
So what is the effect of microphone gain on single sideband transmissions?
Distorted audio?
Yep. What is the result of tuning an FM receiver above or below a signal's frequency?
Distortion.
D, distortion of the audio.
Which of the following, oh, let's back up to that one. Because one of the answers, A would apply to single sideband.
Oh.
Because if you're not on the right frequency where the carrier should be, you're going to change the audio pitch. And that's why you get the Donald Duck or the person in a barrel effect.
But that would be AM, wouldn't it, instead of FM?
Right. That's why it's single sideband.
Okay. Yeah.
Regular AM, because you got a carrier, you don't have that same problem. I mean, if you're not tuned on the carrier, it kind of distorts it, but single sideband is kind of a special case. It's very critical.
Yeah, I guess for me, the key to that question is that it says FM.
Right.
Yeah.
Which of the following can be used to enter a transceiver's operating frequency?
Definitely A.
Okay,
And for automatic frequency control, is that the same thing as the, if you're storing the number and then going in and just hitting the recall?
no,
Okay,
I'd go with alpha.
okay.
automatic frequency control and some radios will try to maintain the frequency if it drifts,
Okay,
if your radio oscillator is drifting, which a lot of them do with temperature, it
mhm.
tries to correct for it.
Oh, okay.
The CTCSS or DTMF are what they call subaudible tones that you use with repeaters for access. And I think we'll talk about repeaters in a little bit, but A is the correct answer, either the keypad or the VFO or recalling a memory channel, which they didn't give you that option. What is a quick way to, or what is a way to enable quick access to a favorite frequency or channel on your transceiver?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that it is storing it in a memory channel. Just a thought.
Boy, what a wild guess. What does the scanning function of an FM transceiver do?
Charlie.
For activity. C.
Some scanners, I don't like the way they operate, and some scanners I like the way they operate. They do different,
Yeah,
they do it different ways, and it's annoying when it scans, when it's always timed, that's annoying. Versus it just scans quickly unless it hears something and then stops.
the other one is a particularly for your FM, VHF, UHF handy talkies or base stations, is the squelch control, so that you don't hear all the background noise when there's no signal present. And all it does is actually disable the audio as long as there's not a strong enough signal to what we call break the squelch. A lot of cases, it will be an adjustable setting. With usually some kind of rotary knob. In some cases, like my radio here, it's an auto squelch. You actually have to go into the settings to change the amount, but it automatically turns the squelch on for you.
Another thing I don't like about the radios, one do it one way, the other does it another way, and it's very annoying.
When you're trying to tune in a weak FM signal, you may want to turn the squelch level down so that you can hear some of those really weak signals. Let me see who's still on.
I like dials. Right, like on my scanner, I can dial it to exactly.
Not
where I
much room
want
for
it.
dials on a handy talk.
I know,
Okay, we have no activity. I'm going to turn the squelch off now because we're listening to channel 147.420. There's nobody there, but just static.
is that a repeater?
No, that's simplex.
It's simplex, yeah, so I don't have any simplex channels stored.
That's one of the national calling frequencies where you can call people without a repeater. So that was the exercise we were doing this morning with the club, is in case of a AT&T outage,
Right.
to contact other people in the area with simplex and not even use a repeater. So we were
Maybe
doing,
that why the repeaters was quiet? Everybody was on simplex?
well, repeaters around here are always quiet.
I was expecting a lot of traffic. Everybody's gonna be talking on the radio.
Nets are
No.
about it. Other than the nets, you don't hear much traffic. So what's the purpose of a squelch function?
B.
Bravo sounds good.
I like B.
How is squelch adjusted so that a weak FM signal can be heard?
A.
You're on a roll.
I am. You know why? No numbers.
Okay, well, here's some numbers.
Ah. This
Can
is-
we take,
Hey, Rob.
can we take a little longer on the questions so I can read them all
Oh, sure.
before we get the answer?
Yeah, she's a fast reader.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I
It's
blurt. I tend to blurt. Sorry. I'll just,
I'm
Okay.
getting used to it.
Uh,
you're just not used to me answering
Well,
because
that's
there's
quite
math.
No, I am.
VHF, UHF transceivers are, well, handy talkie.
Robert?
Yeah. Yes,
Hey, this is Paul. I have a question for you.
okay.
Just now we were talking about the channels and frequency when we were watching you use your handy talkie, and it's probably kind of a dumb question, but so the frequencies that you're tuning to, would you be able to tune into like a radio station's frequency and pick up like music to your handy talkie, or or am I missing something fundamental? Because you called out the frequency you're listening to, and it's like, well, they're listen to, I listen to 105.x or whatever, XYZ or whatever, and it seems like they're close to each other. I mean, are you able to pick up
Okay,
this commercial radio
the
signal?
answer is it depends
The radio. you
on
bought.
your radio.
I bought one that had, AM, FM.
Some of them have AM, FM. It also depends on the frequency range. A lot of them will allow you to pick up aircraft and police frequencies.
They're not
You can't transmit on them, but you can receive.
Mhm.
In some cases, you can do FM broadcast. The weather. Mine has, I know, one setting I can select to listen to the weather reports, the NOAA stuff. I guess it's NOAA.
NOAA.
It's just very annoying. Keep repeating the same stuff. But it really depends on your radio, but even the cheaper ones will let you do some of that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So, one of the things, particularly in using repeaters, you need to be able to set your frequency offset. When you talk to a repeater, you're going to listen to the repeater on one frequency and you're going to transmit to the repeater on a offset or a higher, well, usually a higher frequency. In the case of VHF, like 2 meters, the offset is either going to be a plus or minus 600 kilohertz. In most cases, it's plus, but it can be either. You really need to look in the repeater book to find out what the particular repeater is using. In the case of UHF, like 70 centimeter band, it's going to be a plus or minus 5 megahertz offset. So like our local NASA repeater here is 444.925. That's what you listen to. You transmit on 449.925. Okay,
All that's in repeater book. That's where I learned it from.
and it will also tell you CTCSS tones,
Yeah, or in the digital world, it's how you, they're color coded.
right? That's DMR.
Oh, yeah, right, I don't have a D-Star or Fusion or AM.
What is meant by repeater offset?
It's awful.
Alpha.
Everybody good? The difference between transmit and receive. You have a similar thing on satellites, except it's two different bands. It will be UHF and VHF. One will be uplink, one will be downlink.
I'm sure there's a reason. It's a mystery to us.
I can't answer why. It just is. Some of the newer transceivers will have digital voice capability. It's one of the digital modes, but it digitizes voice signals. And along with it, you can also send data. For instance, like my little D-Star transceiver here, I can be talking to somebody and at the same time transmit a picture to them. It's not fast, it's not a great picture, but it's recognizable.
Is it a lot, like a video picture or a static? picture?
Static picture. There are three basic digital voice protocols. One's called DMR, Digital Mobile Radio, which was developed a long time ago by Motorola. Most of the Chinese radios, the more expensive ones, when you're looking at $100 and up, support DMR. ICOM and Kenwood support D-Star, and Yaesu supports what they call System Fusion or C4FM. And they're all incompatible with one another. Now,
Awesome.
since the technology uses a digital mode or voice repeater that's connected to the internet, there are some, I guess you call them gateways now, that will allow you to go from one to the other. So you can go from D-Star to DMR if you know how to do it through some of the gateways on the internet.
Like Grandmaster or.
No,
Yeah.
it's other, because Brandmeister is just DMR. That's the registration.
I have a question. So I listen to the local police scanners, like for all the counties around my area, and our county switched off its public channel for everything but like traffic, so that's not interesting. But I think that they went to digital. I don't think they're like encrypting anything. Is that what they did? Did they just switch over when they take them off the, because it says that they don't encrypt, that it's still available. And is this what they're talking about when it says that you have to, that you can't access it, but you can still? Because I've been trying to figure out how to get access to those channels again.
They're not gonna help you.
Oh, I know.
No.
That's not making it easy. I'm reading all the Reddit threads trying to figure it out.
There are
I-
digital scanners.
Yeah.
I actually have one. So if it's just digital, you're gonna want probably a P25 phase 1 and phase 2 scanner, probably. But if you go to Radio Reference, the website,
Uh-huh.
and you can look up your county, and they can tell you if it's encrypted, if it's just digital or analog, what it is, and they'll even give you the frequencies.
Oh, awesome.
Yep, Radio Reference.
Got it. Yay.
Yep.
With encrypted, you're done. You're never gonna get.
Oh,
that.
'cause
yeah,
it-
I know.
yeah,
I know I'm
yeah.
out of luck for that, but I'm hoping
Yeah,
that they're not that far.
I'm in Virginia as well, and we just went encrypted down here. So
Oh, cool.
I'm in Portsmouth. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They also use a bank of channels where it keeps.
Yes. Yeah.
Changing
Oh,
uh,
frequency hop or channel hopping?
Yeah, I forgot
Oh.
what it's called, but they, they'll have like 20 channels
Huh,
and it's all synchronized. So every time they key the mic, it uses a different channel. So even if you figure out the frequency, even if you figure, you'll only get little parts of the conversation.
Well, if you have a good scanner, it does that for you. Uniden has some very good scanners out there.
You need the information to configure it, though. It's not easy to get.
No, it's all online. They have their own program that you can just download it straight to the radio. It's very easy, actually.
Really? I told
Yep.
this over here, and they was like,
Well, and again, it depends on what
do.
radio you have. Like I have the Uniden 436 and a 536, which they use what's called Sentinel software. You download your counties and just plug it right in. It's easy. And plus, those come preloaded with actually nationwide. You can actually limit what you
have hands-on experience. That's
yeah. It's always good to have somebody who knows what they're talking about.
exactly.
I pretend.
I have a cheaper one. And it doesn't-
Hey, Bob, before you go forward, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
And kind of off subject here, I guess, but sending a picture over the digital.
Yeah.
Obviously the radio doesn't have a camera. So are you taking the picture on your phone and then
Right.
connecting it to the radio, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Bluetooth.
There's an app
Transfer it.
for, or at least for my radio, that I can run on my cell phone and actually control it and send a picture and do a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. And what radio do you have?
I have a ICOM ID
I
52.
Okay.
was just looking at that yesterday.
Now, I wouldn't recommend that as a beginner radio. Only because it costs $650.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a Kenwood analog, dual band, and then I have a, Baofeng dual band.
Kenwood just came out with their new tri-band.
I saw that.
I think it's
Yeah.
about $800.
Yeah. I can't do that.
And I think the middle band is the 1.5 meter, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, my Bayphone was only what, $80, I think, something like that. If that, maybe
Yeah.
cheaper. Yeah. Sorry to get off course there.
That's okay. We were at the end. So the positive power lead for your mobile radio needs to go to the positive battery terminal with a fuse in the line. Negative needs to go to chassis ground up at the battery. To find out how long you can operate, you divide the battery amp hour rating by the average current draw for your radio. And that will give you the number of hours that you could theoretically operate. It actually should be longer than that because of the duty cycle. You're not transmitting all the time. Microphone gain can cause audio distortion, particularly on single sideband. And if it's too low, okay, it makes it very hard to discern the signal because you're not providing much information energy onto the carrier.
So that's for the people who are transmitting. I can't hear them if their microphone gain is too low.
Right,
Not that I can raise up my microphone gain to hear them better.
right. Yeah, your microphone gain is for talking,
From my
not
microphone.
listening. To hear them better, you turn up your audio gain and your RF
If
gain,
I can't hear them, I can just say, hey, you're not coming in loud enough to turn up your microphone gain.
Right.
something.
or hold the mic closer, which is like microphone gain also. How far away you are.
Speak louder.
Speak louder or hold it closer and don't talk into it. You talk across the microphone,
Really?
really.
Okay.
Otherwise, the air affects it and then you'll get a lot of kind of like, sound like static from your breath talking into it.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Interesting.
Tuning. Question?
no, I said I didn't know that. That's cool.
Okay.
That's probably why people use those flat little bit in front of
Well, if you ever
the-
see pictures of guys at radio stations
Yeah.
with their microphone and they'll have filters on there, so
Filter in
they
front of
can't
it.
actually
The-
blow on the microphone.
Right.
To use that on golf courses to stop the wind from interfering. You ever notice that?
Yeah,
They'll have those.
yeah,
Covers.
Cause-
It's windy out there, noisy,
because the microphone will pick up wind.
and when they do that, you don't hear the wind at all.
Okay, so to tune, if we're not set at the right frequency, okay, we can get distorted audio. You set frequency by either the keypad, rotating the VFO knob, or selecting a memory channel. Scanning just runs through a range of frequencies, and usually you can set what the upper or lower frequency are, or in some cases, it'll do the entire band. It depends on the scanning function in your radio. Squelch just turns the audio off as long as there's a signal below the threshold. If you want to try to hear a very weak station, you turn the squelch off, or at least adjust it so you can hear some of the static. If it's very low signal, it's going to be with what we call frying bacon in the background. Frequency offset is the difference between a repeater's transmit and receive frequencies. It's 600 kilohertz for VHF and 5 megahertz for UHF.